welcome to another edition of RSG One Mic. Looking forward. It's a lot going on. We're coming off a big weekend with opening of March Madness. A lot going on in both the men's and women's tournaments. So we'll spend a lot of time on that. We got some other stuff happening in the world of sports, so we'll get in that. But before I get into the show, I want to welcome in my friends and my partners. It's good to be with y'all. Let me start with Chicago. How you doing, Carl?
Doing well, man. Spring break from school, so
Yeah.
how spring break is. We all play. It's work and had some meetings and just preparing for next week, but some downtime too. So I'm very blessed.
Yeah, I'm in that spring break mode, trying to catch up. I understand that. I think Cecil them just came off spring break. So what's up in Beloit, Wisconsin? How you doing, Cecil?
Oh, I'm straight. Things are going well. Just trying to get to May.
Yeah, but all you folks in the higher ed environment, all of us is trying to get to May. We're just trying to get to May. We're trying to get commencement. It's all good. And then
Yeah.
we got and Darnell, I know is trying to get to May, trying to get through the semester. So I know that over there in Ypsilanti,
Yeah, I
Eastern
can't wait. I can't wait to May, and I really can't wait to June. June's a Christmas time. So, yeah.
That's good, y'all. Well, there's a lot happening. Let's open up in the news with what's happening. That NFL comes with the rule change with the kickoff. I think they took that from the XFL. The
It
way the
did.
rule is breaking down is they'll kick off from the 30-yard line. The remaining players on the kickoff side of the team will be on the 40-yard line of the receiving team, and then the receiving team I believe, is going to be on the 30, 35-yard line. So it's going to be pretty close together. And the key is that the kickoff lands in kind of I think what they call the return zone or the landing zone. And if they do that, that's where the return. So it's going to be kind of quirky, but they took it from XFL, trying to really bring kind of the return game back in. I see my Steelers made a move with this change. Just y'all thoughts on the rule change and let me start out with Darnell. I know you be looking at the football stuff, thinking about stuff. What do you think about this rule change?
Well, I got to check. I saw some of the clips they put up from XFL. It looks super whack, to be honest with you. It looks super whack. But I like the idea that they're trying to keep the kickoff in the game, and a lot of my favorite players growing up were the kick returners.
Mhm.
Guys like Devin Hester, guys like Roscoe Parrish, guys like um uh the human joystick. I forgot his name already, man. But yeah, Dante Hall. But guys like that, so those are exciting plays that we do want in the game. But the way they're doing it now, I don't know. It's gonna take some time for me to, it's gonna take some time for it to grow on me. But yeah, I'm not there yet.
Yeah, I mean everybody playing football in the hood, whether you was on concrete or everybody wanted to do the Billy White shoes. Everybody wanted to be returner and end up in the end zone doing what Billy White Shoes Johnson was doing. So that's the part I loved about the kickoff a little bit. Coach, you coached, you played. The game's a physical game. I mean, we can't really legislate contact out of it. It feels like even what we're seeing with the rule around tackling. I like this rule because you're not at least having people getting a running start. They got to start from a stand. And I think there's trying to reduce that, but collisions are collisions. But what's your thought about a rule like this?
Well, it's hard because they're trying to make the game safer, more or less is what they say. But then you're taken away from the whole aspect of football.
Yeah.
You're taken away from the aspect of, I mean, they've already done that with a lot of rules, and it's obvious the officials don't even know how to call that these days because one thing's an interference, another thing isn't. One thing's roughing a quarterback, another thing isn't. I mean, this is just going to be one more of those sets of rules where they're going to have to figure it out. And like Darnell was saying, I've seen the clips of it too, and it looks ridiculous. You're only about 5 yards apart from each other. You're blocking like you're a wide receiver and a defensive back, is what it amounts to. And then the running back's coming at you full speed, though, and he's going to have to pick and choose the holes. I just shouldn't go back to it and just kick it out of the end zone. I mean, as opposed to this. So right now it looks a little strange. And I don't think the other thing too is the NFL is always trying to add things to the sport. I don't think this adds anything. I think it's going to take away from it quite a bit. So I guess we can get used to it, but I think this is along with the new tackling rule is a bridge too far.
Yeah, Carl. I mean, you take that fan perspective. You've been watching the game. But is that something that you appeal? I mean, obviously, XFL is having somewhat of influence on it, and I like the fact that they're at least drawing from some of these these other leagues to try to think about how to improve the game. But you do want to avoid the clown show.
No, I mean, it's better than the status quo is now because the rule now is whack because they just kick it out. I mean, basically, you're going to get cut if you can't kick it out of the end zone now. So the bottom line is that, yeah, it's better. And one of my brothers, Stan Davis, told me about this. I'll be real disclosure. I haven't watched XFL. I like NFL football and college, but no, XFL, sorry, I'm not. I'm watching baseball. I'm watching basketball. I watch no football this time, but I think the sad thing about it is that this crusade to have the safe sport of football. That's oxymoronic. Football is never going to be safe. You're going to always have CTE. You're going to always have death, and so this mess trying to make it more safe and it just angers me because if you sign up for football and try and be safe, then you shouldn't play football.
Yeah, the point you're making is right on. I mean, I thought about the new tackling rule, and people are like, where you draw the line. Look, to me, the rules to protect the head, to me, that's good. Once from the neck down, it's football. Like at a certain point, it's football. And when I look at this rule, even when I looked at the examples they gave, I'm like, what else do you expect these guys to do? I mean, you see some of the size difference when you're trying to come up and close, and you're a defensive back trying to catch up. I mean, some of these tight ends, like, how are you going to get some of these guys down? And
they want all offense, bro. They want offense,
and the injuries that come with when you got to think. Like, the last thing you want to be doing when you come up to tackle somebody is thinking about how you're going to hit them. Before you know it, they right up on you. And the injuries that can come out of that, like, there's no thought about the defensive player. And I think Coach hit this, like, at some point it's football. If you're trying to protect the head, long term, I can understand that. Everything else below, that's game. You're gonna sprain an ankle, you're gonna hurt a knee, you're gonna break an arm. Like, that's part of the game. But some of the stuff that they're coming up with, I think is a bridge too far. So I know, Coach, you talked a little bit about that. I know, Darnell, you working with young folks, coaching. I mean, how are you approaching this? How do you see this?
Well, we're talking about the hip drop tackle right now.
Hip drop tackle. Yeah.
The most instances where the hip drop tackle comes into play, or when you're trailing the ball carrier, and in those kind of situations, it almost seems now like you're running out of options. Like, what other ways are you going to bring guys to the ground? Like you said earlier about the big tight end and the small DBs. Usually in those situations, like, yeah, you can ankle bite, drive your shoulder pad through the thigh boards, like, the regular fundamental stuff. But how are defenders supposed to, like, give up on plays now? Because I saw some of the examples that they used. It's almost like you have to just take the 15-yard penalty, because if you don't take the 15-yard penalty, it's going to be a touchdown anyway. So you got to do that to save the score. So yeah, it's going to be tough. And Coach Youngblood said something earlier that was so true. The way the game is officiated, right? Because this call, it could be vague. Like, it's vague in a way to where sometimes you see plays that would usually be called the hip drop that are not called this again. Now it's close in the game. You haven't been calling this all day, But it's a tie game now, and now you want to call the hip drop tackle. Now to get a key first down, and then that's going to swing the game. So yeah, I'm worried about that.
Yeah, I'm worried about anything that um, causes a referee that it's not clear. It's too murky. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, if you sat here and looked at that and said, okay, how are you going to be able to call that? No one in that room could say you could call that cleanly. Like, the game is too fast. There's no way in the world a referee can can get that right. I just they move too fast, and so for me, a rule that you're going to bring into play that is very difficult is that we have too many judgment calls already for referees. Like, eliminate that. My rule of thumb right now with football is anything from the neck up, legislate everything that it's football. It's like at that point it's football, and I think we're going to have to figure out how to draw a line with that one. Coach, it looked like you
Yeah,
were about to say something. Go ahead, Darnell.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, how would you teach somebody to tackle from behind, right?
I don't even know. I mean, I don't even know. I
Because
mean,
their momentum's going forward, and their momentum's going forward too. So
yes,
eventually they're going to fall forward 5, 6, 7
yeah,
yards. You know what I'm saying?
yeah. And sometimes something could look like that, even based on how a runner's trying to get away. It could
Right.
result in that type of, as you're trying to even protect yourself, you could land that way and roll over. Like, you know what I'm saying? The natural reaction, because of the way the person you're tackling is trying to get away from you, all those
Yep.
actions can happen. So it's like, who do you blame for something like that? I don't even know how you teach that, man.
Well, and all it's going to do is lengthen the games again because they'll
Yeah,
be going to the monitor for one more thing every game.
yeah.
And that's the other thing. They don't need one more thing to go to the monitor for because it's already disrupting the game. It's killing basketball right now, in
Yes,
my mind, is going to the monitor and being there forever for
yes,
whatever reason. And you're just adding one more thing they're going to be going to the monitor for, and the games are going to drag out. There's no momentum. You can't get any momentum to your game at all because you're stopped on every other play. And like you say, running backs run, they twist, they turn, they try to back up. If a guy twists and turn in a tackle, you're gonna end up hip dropping him because
yes,
you got to take him down that way. So are they going to let that go? Is that a hip drop because he turned his position? It's like JJ Watt said, let's just put flags on people
that's
now and
right.
just call it a day. I mean, because that's what the game seemed to turn into. And again, I'm all about being safe, but like Carl said, football's football, man. And
Yeah.
if you're afraid of injuries, don't play.
Don't play.
That's it.
We've seen a number of folks walk away because
Man, I've been knocked out twice, so I don't know what's coming. You know, if it's gonna hit me, but it didn't stop me from playing. So
all right. As we get ready for opening day, and I know this is where Carl loves the opening day. Baseball's about to get going
Cubs
and rev
Rangers
it up.
tomorrow, baby. Cubs Rangers, baby.
The
Cubs
top
Rangers.
the number one guy in offseason free agency is now in the hot seat. Our man Otani, and sounds like his interpreter is. I mean, he got a. I told you I wouldn't mention it. I'm gonna leave it alone. I'm about to say he got a P Diddy situation. Now, not that quite that big, but things just kind of bubble up, out of nowhere. Um, Money exchanged with all kinds of stuff. He's saying that the money was stolen. I mean, and this fits into a larger thing we're going to talk about also with basketball, gambling, money, sports. I mean, sports is in bed with this. But Carl, I know you pay attention to baseball, and also you got this legal background. I mean, do you see a way out for this at time? You got the feds involved.
I think they'll get
Where do you see
fined
this
for
thing
poor
going?
judgment. I think they're not going to be able to prove that, that he was the better. But I mean, it just is poor judgment as far at best, and that's a dangerous situation because it's just hard for me to believe that $5 million or $4.5 million just disappears from you. I don't care how rich you are. Rich people don't give away money. Poor people give away money. So I just don't see, and it's nothing against poor people, but it's just real talk. And we have a real talk show, so I just keep it real. But no, so I think that Otani has something to do with it. This interpreter, though, is a very shady guy. He's lied about his whole background. He even said his job was only 10% interpretation. So he even admitted he wasn't really an interpreter per se. And like I said, so the bottom line is that this guy, I think somewhere Otani knew about it, and yeah, I don't believe he was totally did not know what was going on, oblivious of what happened. I just don't believe that. I don't know Otani, but I just know that if you got money, you trying to keep your money and you looking after your money, especially if you're new money like him. I don't think he comes from a rich background, stuff for that. I don't think he comes from a poor background, but you're talking about a $700 million guy. But yeah, I just think something happened with him, but they'll do something. There'll be a fine, and he'll be fine because they've covered the tracks. But now the fact that they're pleading the fifth, or they're not no comment now on the scandal tells you something. And everyone's lawyered up too, so it tells you again they know the peril. But I think they've did the right thing as far as how they threw the interpreter on the bus and protected Otani. And Otani gave his little statement with no questions. He had no questions, and then went on in merry way. So he'll be fine. They're not going to do anything to Otani because baseball needs him. I think Japan is coming. Is going to be the opening day next year. Cubs, Dodgers. Everyone talking about that. They're going to be printing money out there, printing money with the Cubs, Dodgers. I was saying to myself, man, I need to go out to Japan and see that. That's a bucket list thing. So yeah, but the main thing is that that's where we're at right now. And simple with Mr. Otani. I'm tired of it myself. We all know if Otani walked down Michigan Avenue, nobody would know who he is.
Preach.
I mean, it's plain and simple. He's a nothing as far as people know his name, but they don't know who he is, and so he's not iconic in that way. If MJ walked down Michigan Avenue, there'd still be a riot, like there always been.
Well, I tell you, I told you I was in the airport. I looked right up, like 2 feet from me. Rodman was standing there. I was like,
I saw Rodman on Michigan Avenue too. That was almost a riot.
Doing his thing. Yeah. But on the basketball side, we got was it Jonte Porter? That's Michael Porter's brother, right? Up in Toronto, in the scandal around the betting, where people were doing the prop bets with him. And Cecil, you've been around long enough just to watch the evolution of this. I mean, there was a time when there would have been this kind of connection between gambling and sports, and right now it's connected. The commissioner, our guy comes out. The NBA is knee deep into this. Now we got this thing flooding up. And they've been tracking it all together. I mean, it's not like we haven't had scandals, but where do you go when you have something like this where it really threatens kind of the integrity of the game when you're talking about a player doing this, and not really a star player?
Well, I mean, the reality of the fact is that this isn't new. People talk about the integrity of the game. I mean, let's go back to the Black Sox. I mean, Pete Rose back in the day. The only thing is, like everything else, is that we've got social media and too many cameras. Too much access to information where people can dig in and find stuff and come up with clips of things. And anytime there's a lot of money, and the money is doubled and tripled and quadrupled, like Carl was saying, Otani's looking at $700 million to play baseball. The money's just gone crazy. But anytime there's large sums of money around, there's going to be gambling around. There's going to be gamblers around. There are going to be people that are trying to get their hand in. When I was around guys like that back in the day, even there were always dudes hanging around at practice and trying to hit guys up to get involved in stuff. And some of it had to do with gambling too. And now, heck, you got ESPN shows that show sports betting. I mean, so there's going to have to be some stuff that's underneath behind the scenes if you got all this stuff up front. So it's just the nature of it. It's just a way for people to make money. It's just a way for people to get into it. And if anybody thinks that Porter is the only person that's doing it or has any issue with it, they're off. They're way off. I mean, you remember back some of the speculation with Jordan and what happened with him. All had to do with him betting. Even some people tried to equate it even to what happened to his parents. That never got full flight as far as I remember, but that was one of the theories that were going around, that he was betting and he got caught up with it and got his family caught up in it. So yeah, it's one of those things. it's a lot of money involved. Where there's a lot of money involved, Vegas is going to be involved. Heck, not to jump ship, I wonder what Vegas had on the game between Iowa and West Virginia.
Yeah,
I mean,
that was clear.
That was sad. That's sad as hell. I mean, what was the line going on there? You know, so anyway, I'm a conspiracy theorist by nature, but I just feel like, you know, as long as large sums of money are going to bring the crooks out, they're going to bring the criminals out, going to bring people in that want to have a piece of it one way or another.
Yeah, and Darnell, I don't know if you want to weigh in on this before we move on to stuff, but you know, you that's your generation coming up. They've been coming up, you know, with the online betting. The college kids doing that. You know, it's been part of y'all ethos for a while. You know,
Dude, people bet on high school games. Like people
Yeah.
bet on anything. People be shooting dice in the bathroom. People be shooting dice in the bathroom in high school. So yeah, the NBA, they made their bed. They got to lie in it. You know, the love of money is the root of all evil, just like the Bible says. And like Cecil, it was just like Coach Youngblood said, it's not new. Even looking back to Sonny Liston and the way that the mob was controlling boxing back in the 30s, the 40s, the 50s, you know. So like he said, Pete Rose, and even with Tim Donaghy and Scott Foster, and with the NFL and NBA referees. Like, this stuff's not new. This stuff's not going away. And like he said, we just have more access and more eyes, so we can see more of it.
Well, y'all, that was great. It was great to kind of just, you know, do that. That was kind of appetizer, because now we're talking about, let's get into the opening weekend, all the stuff we really want to get into. Man, I don't even know where to start with this weekend. There's so much good stuff happening on both the men's and women's side, but maybe just to kind of start with, you know, I'll start with you, Darnell. You know, kind of your opening kind of observations just this weekend, either men or women, wherever you want to start. I just think there's so many things going on. What did you like about what we saw this weekend in March Madness?
I like that. Well, I know a lot of people were complaining about the lack of upsets, but I like the that, you know, the bigger schools, the Blue Bloods, they started to they caught up a little bit, and I think that did have a lot to do with NIL and the transfer portal and how some of the mid-major guys are coming up. But you know, the first weekend is set up for a lot of really good matchups. We're seeing Purdue and Gonzaga. You know, so we're seeing Duke and Houston. Like, there are a lot of big matchups coming up. On the women's side, we saw some really good performances. We got to see Juju play a couple of days ago. Man, she is a killer. We saw LSU run into some trouble. The same thing with Iowa. But yeah, a lot of good storylines, and especially in my home state of Michigan, the Oakland Grizzlies. They're able to pull off an upset against Kentucky, but you know, Calipari been suspect. Like I said in the last episode, they are my ultimate can't trust the team, and they show why on the first weekend.
Yeah. I mean, you hit some really good ones. Yeah. Your boy Jack, was it Goki, hitting 10 threes on Calipari. I mean, he was raised up like he was at CCRB. You know,
Mhm.
Darnell and I know that back at the house. He's like he was in the gym. He was doing talking. He's like the old dude hitting threes on the youngins, just doing his thing. But yeah, I think you hit some really good notes. Yeah, Carl, what are some of your observations in the opening weekend? And I'll go to Coach.
The dominance of Connecticut. I mean, just the way they blitz people. Dominance of
both Connecticut teams. What's Connecticut
one thing
teams?
yeah, I mean, just embarrassing people.
Yeah.
There was just lopsided things. I mean, Darnell's right. There were a few upsets, but you know, San Diego State, how dominant they were. So, you know, but I would say definitely that we see. I think the dominant teams position themselves very well, and some teams like, you know, Illinois and Alabama, I thought would do worse. They're doing better, but you know, it's been really good basketball. You know, obviously our Badgers took it in the chin, but you know, wasn't surprised. I picked that, but I didn't think it'd be that bad. They got blown out, so But yeah, I think really that you see stability, and it's gonna be a really good weekend of major teams playing each other and just some great matchups of names that not. I mean, last year was so many Cinderellas was ridiculous. I think they really lost people. A lot of people that got upset in the Four Atlantics and the world, things like that. And now you have more chalk besides some of the big upsets, like we talked about the Kentucky or the Auburn. So yeah, it's good, I think, for the brand that you have some of the bigger names out there people are going to watch than some of these Cinderellas who no one's heard of, and cheer for them. But the brand always going to win unless the brand like Gonzaga builds itself over a year and becomes a brand where people expect it to be in the tournament.
Coach, your observations.
Well, not too surprising. Both Darnell and Carl kind of hit the nail on the head. I just thought it was some really good basketball was played in some of these games. I mean, where some people showed out and showed who they were. That Houston game was a monster. And Shed just kind of showed who he is. He's straight up DAWG, man. He's a dog, and he carried him, and he's Calvin Sampson on the floor. I just love how they play. They weren't as clean as they want to be, but that was a great game. North Carolina State showed they got some things going over there. The big boy is a beast, and they had to battle, and there were just some good basketball games, watching some teams do some things. Obviously, UConn, though, is still the cream of the crop. I mean, you want to run, we'll run. You want to run half court, we'll run half court. You want to slow it up, we'll slow it up and still kick your butt. I mean, they just know how to play basketball right now, and they look good, and they're like a machine right now. It's fun to watch them, actually, to watch them play. And now you got, Duke trying to make a look at it, come up in this game. And so it was just some good basketball. Good to see the North Carolina's back, playing games. And so this next weekend is going to be fun. It was just a lot of good basketball, looking at some good teams. One thing I did notice is that Purdue, even though they're still on my can't trust them list to some extent, Zach Edey's different right now. I heard him in an interview. I saw him on the floor. He's different right now. He's balling right now. He's playing better than I have seen him ever play. Smarter, stronger, understand where he is and what he's doing, and that could be problematic.
Yeah, Zach. When he doing his interview, he like Drago,
right?
against Creed. I
Right?
mean, when they play against Utah State, he was like, if they die, they die. I mean, I look up at the score, I'm like, he's
Yeah, I mean,
living in America. I mean,
he's not joking right now. He said, "Hey, this is who we are, and this is what we're gonna do." I was like, "Oh my!" And he's playing that way too, So, and I would be remiss if I didn't talk about the ladies, man. I've been talking. I was lost and didn't have a chance to watch Juju play. Oh my gosh, that is, she's nasty. I mean, they're going to be a hard out with her. Whoever, they're going to be a hard out. But the women's games were great. I mean, they were good to see. A lot of great names out on the court. And I think that Darnell was the one who said it, and I think Carl did too, that the name recognition of the women is just amazing right now. Mm-hmm. Looking forward to those games too.
Yeah, it felt like you got introduced to some more players. The women had stars. Like I saw the guys, and they got some stars coming out, but the women just flat out had some stars. I mean, I sat here and looked at the number. It is hard. I couldn't even go through the list all the way. When you think about, and I'm not even going with the what's the young lady from Syracuse who's now the third all-time scorer. I mean, she was a walk-in bucket. It was like, it was like, okay, we get introduced to you, but then the Baylor Virginia Tech game was going down, and Jada Walker was on the road going toe to toe and putting back. I mean, the shot making that was happening in there, and then Kiki from Stanford went for 41. But
right.
After Cameron Brink fouled out, she just went in her bag. But then you had Crooks, you had Emily Ryan, who was on the other side. Like Iowa State gonna be good. moving
Oh yeah,
forward. I mean,
they're all
Emily Ryan
freshmen.
was, yeah, it was crazy. I was like, I'm sitting here yelling, and everybody's like, every time you turn around, in every game, whether it was Creighton and UCLA was down, had to come back. I mean, it was there. On the guy's side, this is what I was proud about. You had the upsets, James Madison, like we arrived. Like last year, everybody was in their bag. They're like, okay, we're gonna be the Cinderella story. And some of them cats just said, no, we ain't gonna have that. Like next round, Duke was like, okay, we see you coming now. The reaction to those teams by the next team was like, you're not gonna make a star on us, which was an interesting reaction because James Madison looked like they was on a bag. It was like I'm like, who gonna face them? Them cats was balling, and then they
Mhm.
just got
Got
they
blown
they,
out
they had
though.
a battle. Yep, and a couple of those teams got run out the gym, and it was like the reaction, like, no, you're not gonna do to us what you just did was amazing to watch that reaction. Whereas, some of those teams just kind of was wilting to the momentum that was happening. It was good to see those type of reactions. All right, who hurt your bracket? I'll start. St. Mary's. Man. And the thing about it is the Zags did exactly what I thought they was going to do. And we got to talk about Gonzaga and what Mark Few's done. Like we had a chance to watch them in Maui and the adjustments he's made to unlock. This is the kind of stuff we were talking about in the text around your ability to, one of the issues Marcus was talking about with LSU. Sometimes you got to move that lineup around to unlock something. Mark
Mhm.
Few bringing Greg in into that starting lineup, and you see how they play. Man, they look good. I mean, I was like, is this the same team I watched in Maui? And
Nope.
and they look good down the stretch. St. Mary's, I thought would give me more. They just didn't give me. I can't explain it. They just didn't give me. They weren't ready for prime time. They took that's the one who's hurt my brackets out the gate. Anyone else?
Well, I took a limb and tried to. Texas had a good first game, but second game not enough. So, but yeah, I mean, again, with these contests, you got to take somebody to do an upset at some point. But like Darnell said, there haven't been many upsets. So, and sort of Vegas showed that they didn't think there'd be that many upsets. So that's a problem. You bet against Vegas, you're gonna be broke. So, and so I should realize not to do that. But hey, again, there ain't no money on the line, all number of pride on the line, so it's good. So, but folks that got money on the line, you're right. If you pick St. Mary's, you pick Texas, and you had your house on the line, you just give your house away, it's gone. So yeah, it's gone. So yeah. So.
Yeah, I should have known better. I mean, I should have known better about Wisconsin. I had a couple other ones, but I'll leave it
Yeah,
alone.
Wisconsin's just sad. I mean, we talk about we had a local angle here, but keep real. I mean, you had veterans on James Madison, which thought, but ain't nobody thought to be that bad. 10 turnovers like the first 10 minutes. I mean, the team looked like they were out in the club, bow popping, in meatpacking district the night before, and got up barely sober, and they came to the gym. It is awful. I know some things where cats were out in the streets who didn't play here and here. So yeah, so it's just a bunch of mess where we just have a poor culture at Wisconsin, and things are quiet in Wisconsin at the Kohl Center, but that way things are quiet. So,
All right, Coach,
yeah.
who got you?
The only one that got me, some of the ones I weren't surprises. They were toss ups. The only one that got me was Auburn. I had a little bit more trust in them. I thought they'd go a little bit further.
Yeah,
I thought Pearl had kind of brought it together, and they looked good going into it. It was like all the people that lost just didn't look good in the other game.
yeah.
They from tip, they didn't look like they were ready to play. Didn't look like they were as sharp as they were. And I mean, they tried to pull it out, but Auburn was the only one that really surprised me, or hurt me in any way. I had them going a little bit further, not too much further. Yeah, I was a little. I'll be honest. The other one that surprised me, and they're looking really good now, though, is you've talked about them a couple of times, is Gonzaga.
Yeah.
During the regular season, I saw him play like 2 or 3 times, and Few hadn't figured it out yet. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah.
But I always respect him as a coach. I really respect him though, because they're playing well now. They're playing like a Gonzaga type team right now, where they weren't doing that earlier. And I think I had them losing in that second game. So, yeah, I think they're a pleasant surprise for me. I like him and I like the way he coaches. But like I said, Auburn was the only one that really kind of surprised me, and I thought they'd do better.
Yeah, I thought they would do much better, and I just, yeah, they let me down. The whole SEC got just beat down. I mean, they
got
they
crushed.
they
They got
they got
crushed.
crushed. Yeah, I guess
Well,
it
the Big
doesn't
East-
mean
Big
more.
East league,
I guess it doesn't
Big East
mean
league.
more down there. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, they should have
Well,
a few more Big East teams.
well, when they say means more, they talking about football.
They try to adopt that for
football means
everything now. We ain't gonna just let it be the football thing. They
It
be trying to
means
adopt that
more.
for everything. No, we ain't gonna let SEC, bro, but they be trying to do that for everything. I don't want to let that. We ain't gonna let that go. They say it for everything. Come on now.
Speaking of which, another team did surprise me. That's Clemson.
Yes.
Yeah,
Because
they're playing real well. Yeah,
I know. I'm telling you.
They're playing
I'm
real
I
well.
talking.
had them going to my Elite Eight, I think.
Did you?
Okay, well,
Yeah, I watched them, and they said they were coming back some place. I remember watching them, and
Yeah,
I
I
thought
got them
about,
in
I
the Elite Eight.
watched that. Yeah, and I don't know why I didn't give them more, but yeah, Clemson is something else. Darnell, who got you?
My bracket is looking pretty good. But only my two misses were Wisconsin, of course, just like everybody else here except for Carl. Carl got it right.
Except
I had,
me.
I had
I get other stuff right.
you had Wisconsin
Bracket's
losing
better
in the
than
I
first
did
round?
not pick Wisconsin.
Oh, okay. I thought you had them losing the first round.
Oh yeah, I had them out the first round.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, I can't trust
yeah,
them. I
Wisconsin
sat
out
with
the first
Carl.
round.
I sat with Carl and
Coach
watched
had
them
more
up close.
games than me. So
Yeah, I sat with Carl and watched them up close and personal.
Yeah, no.
Like,
They weren't a tournament
what
team.
is
They
going
weren't a
on here?
tournament team before. They weren't a tournament team before the Big Ten tournament. Let's just keep it real. They were awful.
They were awful before the
Yeah.
Big Ten. And I told you, I put it, if you look in the notes, I said, that's fool's gold.
yeah,
The way they played them. Yeah, I said, that's fool's gold because that wasn't them.
yeah, I had Wisconsin losing in the Sweet 16 to Houston, and then I also had Auburn losing in the Sweet 16 as well. So I lost both of them, but everybody else is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
Everybody else is still alive.
All right. So and I talked about the team that surprised me after, not really surprised me, but I'm happy that they were there. I talked about Gonzaga. I think they can make I actually have them on one of my sheets, but I think I had it, but it's one of those things that's on my can't trust it list for a little bit. Mark had me nervous, but I think they playing.
Yeah,
I mean, they getting after folks, and they play at a pace. They got an energy. Just the energy. Energy is a big thing for me, and I think one of the things Coach said was some of these teams weren't bringing that energy. Like the Zags came out like y'all forgot about us. That's the team that's got me saying, okay, they gonna they can make a run. Is there another team that surprised you that you like? Okay, they I thought they were good, but I think they really gonna do something after watching their first two rounds. Anyone can jump in.
Purdue.
Yeah.
I didn't think it'd be that dominant. Yeah, so I like you said, Zach E was up on that mic barking. I never seen him. No, sir, I've never seen him with that type of high energy and that type of, he's usually a guy, he looks subdued, but no, he was like, there was dog in him. And I was like, okay. And same thing with Matt Painter talking that junk at the press conference. No, they're hyped up. I mean, I'm not gonna call it Virginia, but they got embarrassed the year before. I still can remember that game vividly. That's why I can't believe it's been a year later. I remember that Fairleigh Dixon game like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. And just seeing this team is like night and day, man. They got dog in them. Their big dog is talking that junk and on the mic, like I said, just assertive. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I couldn't believe it. They obviously I didn't have them losing, but I didn't think it'd be as dominant as they were. I thought it'd be, they would get by because they're a very good team, but not a great team.
Yeah, Edey scored, and I'd never seen him do this. All the games I've watched him play, and I tried to watch Purdue a lot. He scored with two guys hanging on him, and he turned around and he flexed. I had never seen him do that before. What's his name? 55. He was cracking up when he did it. Lance was cracking up. Edey turned around and went, I was like, uh-oh. Drago is a good description.
I mean, it looked like if they die, they die. He's like, I'm here for business. I thought, man, okay. Darnell, who surprised you? And you're like, okay, this team's
Well,
better than I thought.
it's not a huge surprise, but I was really kicking myself watching UConn. I knew
Yeah,
they was good, but I was like, dang.
yeah.
It's gonna be hard to be UConn. I think I I know we can't change our pick now, but man, if I had a do over, I would have had them win it all.
Yeah, you kind is the Bud Crawford of the group. He's just you. I'm gonna fight you any way you want to fight. I'm gonna beat you that way. UConn's the Bud Crawford of the group, man. He's just they're about to come out with Eminem. That's it. Who's the most vulnerable on the men's and women's side? Who's the most vulnerable number one seed?
I would say Houston, even though I
Yes.
picked them to win the championship, but the injuries are piling up. They're prone to foul trouble. They are a resilient bunch, but those things that I just mentioned, they can creep their way into it because we all know JoJo Tugler is out with the broken foot. Um, Jawan Roberts he's hanging on, he's hanging in there. He got that shin injury, he had that finger injury, but he's still chugging along. But he started limping towards the end of the last game. I'm like, oh shoot. So yeah, the attrition could get them. That's why I say they're the most vulnerable one seed right now.
Who you think, Carl?
I concur with. I was stunned at Houston how they played,
Mhm.
and I was pulling for Buzz. Obviously, love Buzz from his David Marquette. Just like him, he's one of my favorite coaches. But yeah, they really limped to the finish. I mean, I give them great. She got dogging them, and like Cecil said, pulled it out. But that was a disappointing win. I mean, they should have been more dominant than that. And the lack of the foul trouble, they had what we call red flags. So when you have red flags, you're gonna be in trouble next round. So that's. Definitely, I'd say Houston. Yeah, I agree. Concur.
Well, when the other team shoots 45 free throws, it's tough because almost everybody fouled out.
Yeah. Well,
And if they didn't foul out, they ended the
they had
game
four
with 4
fouls.
fouls.
Yeah.
Coach, who do you got?
I gotta make it unanimous. Houston's my team too. I like him a lot, but like Carl just said, a lot of red flags. They give up leads.
Yeah.
They come out on fire and look like they're going to beat the world down, and then they all of a sudden they give up leads. They had to go to overtime and they're up by 7 or 6 in that game, and you think they're going to. But I never felt like they were safe because they can pound you and then they just give it up, and they're prone to foul trouble. And quite frankly, if Shed don't stay on the floor, they're in trouble. They don't really have a backup that can carry the team and do the things he can do during crunch time. And so, and if he gets worn down like he did in the tournament, I thought that's why they got scorched in their tournament, because he was just worn out. They're in trouble. So they got red flags. They got a lot of vulnerabilities, and they give up leads, and you can't do that in a tournament and think you're going to win it, not repeatedly.
Yeah. And on the women's side, it's Iowa. I mean, if West Virginia could just shoot, that game would have been over.
Yeah.
Iowa City. I mean, if they had open looks, and Colorado can play. People forget Colorado beat LSU the opening of the game. They get after you. They're a great defensive team. And then they either get the winner of UCLA or LSU. I just think on the women's side, I know ESPN's got a crew and everything else, but them Buffaloes ain't buying into that, and so don't be surprised if Iowa doesn't make it out of this next round. But I think they look vulnerable against West Virginia, and if you press them and handle pressure, there's going to be a struggle there for Iowa. So that's the one thing. I could be wrong, but I think on the women's side, and then on the men's side, I think you're right with Houston. I got my own issues with Kelvin Sampson. Darnell and I know the cat can be Jekyll and Hyde on some stuff after game, but he's a great coach. But I'm not going to take Purdue out of it. As much as I say he looked like Drago, Rocky did come back and face Drago. And They still got a style, and it's back what Darnell said. If the referees make the whistle, and it's not about Zach. I think Zach is ready. It's about can the others be consistent for them. We all know that's it. It's not just
Mhm.
him, but can the others be consistent? So that one kind of worried me, but I would give a slight edge to Houston for all the reasons y'all said. I'm not getting Purdue out of the water here because they're not because it stayed chalk. They're going up against some tougher competition, and we'll see how that rolls out with them on that side. All right, are you still riding with your picks as we get to the Final Four? Are you still feeling good about who you got out there? Who are you worried about? I
I
got
think I
UConn
told
winning. I
you.
think most of it got UConn winning,
Yeah,
but I
UConn.
think probably everybody else, huh?
I mean, UConn's dominant. I mean, I think that there's no one else picks up. But yeah, I mean, that's. I mean, I would. Yeah, UConn. I'd say definitely is team. Yeah, I mean, I would be worried about if I picked Houston that we talked about, but
Mhm.
most
Now, a
people
team
think
I got going deep in the Final Four, a couple one is Creighton. Creighton looked decent.
Creighton
Like
was good. Yeah,
Creighton balling. And I feel good about them because in a tournament setting, the way that the game works, they probably go 6, 7 maybe in that area. Top four guys are scoring, most of the starters scoring, but you can play that way in that environment. They don't foul. And they got a big that he can play. And they got some play and they all know their roles. Creighton, I'm still kind of feeling good about them. I think I had so I feel good about Creighton. It's going to be interesting to see where they go. None of y'all talked about Marquette. Marquette looked good, but none of y'all.
yeah. I was stunned at Marquette. Yeah, I mean, I thought I had him losing first round. But Kolek came back and he's healthy, so
Mhm.
I just didn't think he'd be that fresh. I thought he'd be rusty. We talked about our chat with Mitchell Robinson had
Yeah,
a time off, but no, Kolek is balling. If I knew if I saw him play like Big East tournament like that, I'd be like, yeah, they would have. But I just like without him, I'm like, but
Yeah,
no,
this net.
they're good.
You're right.
Sam
I
Jones
mean,
is balling
I
too.
didn't realize how I thought I heard he was good, saw him play, he did some things, but I don't know how he gets away with a lot of stuff that he does. To be honest with you, he just does things that people don't expect. They kept calling him, what's it, Mr. Gadget? The way his arms reach out and he scores that one-handed, left-handed drive that he used, his signature move that he did repeatedly. So he can play. He is a really good dude. This next game is going to be a war.
Mhm.
This next game is Marquette playing North Carolina,
Mhm.
NC State. NC State.
NC State. That's going to be a war.
It was.
Yeah,
That's going to be something to see. There are going to be some bodies that come out of that one. But again, you can't never count Marquette out because they're all dogs.
yeah,
Every single one of them. They're just all dogs, and they're playing in the neighborhood.
yeah.
You
No
know,
Cam kids.
so
They
you
be
can
they be ball because they didn't look like that against Wisconsin. I was stunned. I looked at them in Wisconsin, and we talked about Jonte Porter. I was like, "You got money in the game?" Because they look like a different team when they
Yep.
played Wisconsin. I mean, that's why I didn't believe them at all. I'm like, they got blown out by Wisconsin. So I'm like,
Well, that's because Wisconsin got a different level of size, and
Yeah.
that's
yeah,
why, and that's why I kind of believed in Wisconsin going into the tournament. But yeah, it didn't really play out like that. But personally, I'm a believer in Marquette. I had this matchup on my in my tournament as well. In my bracket with Marquette and NC State, but I did end up picking NC State to win because even though Marquette they are dogs, at the front line, they are a little small,
Yep.
and with a dog like DJ Burns coming to town, I think this is the matchup that he's made for.
Yeah, it's interesting, but I think they played against enough size. But I do worry about that matchup. But I feel like I think I had them squeaking by NC
I mean,
State. I
it's
have to
going to
go
be a
back.
good game
It's gonna
regardless.
be
I'm
a
not
game.
saying they're going to be blown out. I'm just
Yeah,
saying that
yeah,
was my pick.
yeah. Well, hey, y'all. One of the things, and this is with Coach. I'll probably start with you. Coach is in the headlines. We uh, there's a couple of different stories here. So we got Calipari. Obviously, I mean, Kentucky did not fare well, and Calipari's coming under fire. He's going to be here. He's going to stay there, but he's obviously the heat is up. But a lot of his brand is on what he does for people at the next level. And Kentucky fans are about what are we doing now. Coach, when you look at Kentucky, one of the questions you've heard, I forget who said that, this is an era where, having these 18-year-olds trying to go at these grown folks is not working. Like, what does Calipari do right now? Where do you see him? What's your evaluation of what's going on with Calipari?
Calipari is a strong personality.
Mm.
That's what he's coached on for a long time. And Carl, I don't disagree with you. I never thought he was a good coach.
Yeah.
I just thought he always knew how to communicate with his guy, with the players, and could get it out of them. Plus, he could recruit his ass off because he got talent. So I've never thought he was an X's and O or a good coach in that regard.
He wasn't UMass. He wasn't UMass. I think you can't take away UMass. I think he forgotten how to coach along the way. But UMass, when he came on the scene,
but over time, as he's gotten to be who he is, and I think he's moved further and further away from that and been the personality coach. He's got to get back to being a coach. He's got to get back if he can, and maybe he can't now. And like I think somebody said in our long emails last night as I was falling asleep, or texts as I was falling asleep, but he's got to get back to making them physical, making them use their athletic ability and play the game the way they know how, and play to win. Not play to get to the NBA, not play to write self-help books and all the stuff that he's been doing outside the court. Oh, you okay there, D?
You turned me around, and I messed around. After you hit me with the self-help book, I feel like I had a little bit down.
No, I just think he just doesn't have that. He doesn't have that coach swagger anymore, and he's got to. If he's going to do this with it, especially the way things are now, he's got to get his coach swagger back if he's even got it anymore. I don't know if he's got it anymore. I don't know if once you kind of let that go and you're in cruise control, I don't know if he's got it anymore. But if he does, it's going to have to come back because he's going to get talented kids, but he's got to do something with it.
Darnell, and I'll go back to then I'll come to Carl on this one, and I got some thoughts as well.
Well, Coach pretty much said what I had to say. Calipari, he's not a good X's and O's coach. This game was just like 2010 all over again when Huggins pulled out that 1-3-1 zone. They had John Wall, they had DeMarcus Cousins, they had Eric Bledsoe, Patrick Patterson, but he couldn't put them in the right spots to be successful. And it's the same thing happened this week against Oakland. They came with the zone and they had no idea, how to create driving lanes and how to, create offense for their team. And I think that it was a failure on Calipari's part. Sorry.
And I'll go to you, Carl, because I know you.
Everything's been said. I mean, I think that the game has passed by Calipari. He was an excellent recruiter, but this one and done mess is not working now. And he's got some guys. I mean, you look at the debacles he's had the past 2-3 years. He needs to go. But they gave him a reprieve because that $34 million buyout. But that buyout's going to be much smaller next year. And if he doesn't win, come out the gate. Forget about if he doesn't win in the tournament. I think they're going to be calling for his head because that's a great job to have. It's a great fan base, and they're not. That's not acceptable for Kentucky basketball.
Yeah, and I think I hit it on, and I think the Calipari teams that I think have a chance are the ones who start from the defensive end, and they defend. And he's had a couple of teams. I mean, he's had some active people and able to do. He's got to be able to do that. I think he's got to find a way to mix his ability to have a great recruiting. He's got a number 2 recruiting class coming in, but like I said, if he could he needs to find some leadership in the backcourt, in the front court. If he can use the portal for specific things to give him some leadership and really key play, he got to tweak his system a little bit, because I just think when you think about somebody come out of high school, you gotta get stronger by the time you get to the season. Like there's a curve that's hard to catch up to with some of these teams that are not only veterans but really good players, veterans. So it's like I don't know how he's going to close that gap, and so it's going to be interesting to see how he moves on with that. The second person in the news was Bill Self. We had a chance to coach Self out in Maui, and I've really grown to connect. Even though I had him on my can't trust list, I really like it. But he said something interesting that he had been thinking about next year for about a month in his post conference. Which, and coach, you said something about like you felt like there was something about his energy and spirit out the road. I think I think he realized early on.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was trying to hold on to it, but the Dickinson thing and there's something about this team. But he was saying it at Maui. He wasn't lying to folks. And there was something about this team. Not to say he doesn't like this team, but there was something that for him. I don't know if he felt like he sold his soul. I don't know what it was, but it didn't seem like it was connecting right with him. I don't know how you felt about this, but what was it about? I think Self you've been coaching, thinking about next year. I mean, what was that all about? I think it got misconstrued, but he said it. So, but I said it had a lot to do with how you mentioned how you felt about how he was processing the season.
Yeah, I felt this all season. When he said that, it did not surprise me one bit. I think it goes back further than that.
Yeah,
to be honest with you. And he alluded to it in when we were in Hawaii when he was talking about how his bench was going to be short, and he already knew they hadn't done a really good recruiting job for that year because you don't, you got some top players, you bring them in, they can be in your starting five. You don't recruit with the idea that these guys on the bench are going to come in and help me out.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys are always going to be a year away or half a year away. You recruit a freshman that's a 5-star, they're going to be on the floor starting. You're not recruiting him to be on the bench. And so when he said he's going to have to rely on his bench, and he said that I got 4, he didn't even say he had 5.
Yeah, he said 4.
He said he had 4, and I go, man, you've got a long way to go if you only got 4. And he alluded to it then, and he just he never seemed comfortable. He didn't seem comfortable being ranked number 1. He didn't seem comfortable all through the season, and it showed. And like I said, I would say I'd even go back further where he was probably thinking, okay, what do we got? We got to do something different here next year. I'd say a month before that he was already in that mindset. But again, he kind of hinted at he was going to struggle when we were in Hawaii. And then, that's why I asked him about the recruiting thing. So what are you going to do with recruiting, with the portal and everything else, especially the style that he plays, the buy-in that he has to have from people. And I saw Hunter out in Hawaii and said, this ain't going to work.
Yeah.
I just didn't like him at all. He's soft. He seemed to me to be soft, a prima donna kind of thing, not ready to get after it. And so Bill had a lot of problems. And I think he saw that when he was out in Hawaii.
My mother said all of it. My mother was watching him, and she watched him at Michigan and watched him. She's like, he runs like he's stiff, like he got a board in his back, and it's just like. But Darnell, I mean, you watched him at Michigan. He has a lot of empty calories? Am I looking at that wrong? Like Hunter seemed like he got a lot of empty calories.
He does. He kind of reminds me of Demonis Sabonis on the Kings, but just like a poor man's version of that, but the same style.
Very poor. Very poor.
Yeah,
he ain't made NBA. Very poor. Very poor. Please. Very poor.
But what you say, Darnell, about empty calories? And I'll come over to you, Hammer.
Hey, he's an all-star, but you saw him in the playoffs last year.
Oh yeah, he's an all-star in the regular season.
When he ran into a real dog, you couldn't do nothing.
He'll bark like a chihuahua. So that's what he'll do.
Hammer, we got Kansas on the can't trust us list.
With Kansas, I think
I
by the fact. I mean, Bill Self has a lifetime contract. He talks like it. So the bottom line is that he knows he's only going to leave Kansas when he wants to leave, and he was just candid that Dickinson was obviously a terrible pickup, and McClellar was out, and so Forpey is a very talented guy, but very immature and poor and careless of the basketball. So you have a situation where they weren't going to win, and you knew that. They got blown out by. I mean, they stayed with Gonzaga for a little while, and then second half, Coach Few put the foot in the pedal and blew them out. So that's where again he's realistic. I mean, cats that win are realistic. They know if they have a good team or not champions know if they're a good team or not. The people who don't do well are the other teams who don't know what they have, overassess themselves, and then they're surprised when they don't do well. When other people look at them like, "Yeah, y'all weren't good anyway." We're like, really? I mean,
Yeah,
so,
but
yeah,
there's one thing to know it, and there's another thing to say it.
no, but again, like I said, no, he can be candid because he has no economic benefit on it. I mean, he's got what? He's got 2 titles. He's got lifetime contracts. So he's gonna tell it like it is. Like, yeah, I'm looking for next year because our team is not good. Yeah. I mean,
But I mean, see, I've been thinking about next year for a month now. That's to me.
Well, again, he has to understand the way I think it goes back to what we talked about, not with football, where it's this NIL era and the constant transfer portal. You have to constantly be looking for talent. It's not where there's no. I mean, there never was a low point, but now you really have to go where you have to look at who's going to be available in the transfer portal, who's going to be available recruits, who comes and who else. So it's so complex that, I mean, I appreciate his candor where a true champion, he said what other people wouldn't say, that, yeah, I'm looking for it all the time and I can assess in real time because I know that drop of a dime, I'm going to have to go get, hopefully not Howard Dixon again, but somebody else in the transfer portal to help with a particular need that I couldn't recruit. Yeah. So, yeah.
But I think and this is back to what Coach you were saying, that I think he's struggling with because, I remember talking to Coach Fickle about this, that with this portal, you can either be a transaction program or you can be a program. And how you do that when you're a program, how you onboard transfer portals is a different way because you're very clear with them about the culture they're coming into versus the transaction. If you spend a lot of time talking about money and NIL, then that's not like I feel like Self did a transactional thing when he's a program guy. You talked a lot about that. How does he navigate that?
Well, I think we heard coaches that have talked about that very thing. Painter talked
Izzo doesn't do it at all, right? Izzo doesn't do portal, right?
No, Izzo doesn't do it because he's definitely a character kind of culture guy. Purdue talked about that, being a culture guy. Mark Few talked about being more concerned with the culture. And when you go in the portal, still looking for people that fit into your culture and don't just fill spots, And when Bill said that down there, that he was the transaction guy, I thought that's kind of out of character for how he built his career and how he built his teams. And I think that's what he's going to go back to the drawing board for. But that's a really good way of putting it, Devon. I hadn't thought of it but that's exactly what it is. You got to decide what you're going to be, and you can still go to the portal, but you got to go to the portal with that in mind.
Yeah. And an example of that is Ole Miss football, they transaction and they lean all up in that. And if you're gonna do it, you do it and you run with it. You can't be in the middle. And I feel like he was in the middle. You gotta know which way you're going, and you gotta have a way to build it. And I think the reason why he's looking at next year is I think he made a decision about how he wants to run it. And it'll be good to kind of see where that goes. All right. We always got to end. I don't know if it's best with last, but Kim Mulkey just keeps on giving. I mean, and we opened up talking about LSU having a scare at home. I mean, they would if it wasn't for Flau'jae deciding to pull out her Kobe Bryant. She decided she was just going to do what she needed to do. I mean, you had a situation where you had Van Lit not starting the second lineup, the second half. They said she was having some problems on the bench, meltdown. But all this started with Kim Mulkey. At the time you're getting ready, she's reacting to an article that hasn't come out with the Washington Post. Coaches sucking the air out of their team. I guess I wanted to. This is an example of the coach can't be the problem. How this Kim Mulkey thing, and she drives me here and there, but she's got a team. Darnell, as you look at something like this, I mean, a distraction. This LSU team, like how much of their thing is going to be dependent on Kim Mulkey staying focused and not focused on keeping the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, that's a big part of it, right? You can't be distracted in moments like this. These teams are like the women's game is getting a lot better. Yeah. We've seen in the last game of Middle Tennessee State, they came to play. and they had them on the ropes, right? And I don't think it's going to get any easier going forward. So they have to focus up and stay focused on the task at hand, or they'll be going home. That's my takeaway.
And it's interesting because, she's a lightning rod. She said a couple things. I'm like, can I play? Can I have somebody play for Kim Mulkey? People have reacted to that. Coach, you've had to be around. I mean, you're around a lot of coaches, Cecil. Like we always talk about players not being a distraction. Belichick is really good about that, right? Like, what do you do when you got a coach like this who is easily distracted?
Well, everybody's, it's been a ride or die for her.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's picking her up because she seems to win. But I see it kind of getting old these days. I think she's, as Carl would put it, I think her time's coming. I think it's passed her by a little bit. But she's like you said, she's a lightning rod to people. But I think she's really getting too far into herself now.
Yeah.
I think she had trouble with Angela Reese for whatever reason. I'm not a fan on either side of those, so it's kind of hard for me to say. I mean, I respect her, what she's doing, but this thing to me brought her down a notch or two. I thought you let this go, you deal with it later, or whatever you have to do, but you don't bring this in and it becomes a distraction, because it has. There's more and more articles being written about it now. People are chiming in on it. And that's the only reason I'd say I wouldn't have commented on it right now, is because it just creates another kind of thing for them to talk about that centers on her and takes away from the team.
Carl, is she the barrier to the Tigers repeating, or is it something else?
No, I'm one of few. I'm a Kim Mulkey fan. I remember when I was a kid, 10 years old, and my first exposure to basketball, women's basketball, was Kim Mulkey, the point guard, Louisiana Tech. So I love me some Kim Mulkey. My understanding about this report is this guy is a terrible person. He smeared Coach Kelly. He has a vendetta against LSU. And you talking about her like she's Calipari. She ain't Calipari. She won the chip last year. All right. So she ain't Calipari. She ain't a has-been because of one thing. She going over the top of this. Yeah, but I'll give Kim Mulkey some slack. Kim Mulkey is a champion of last year. Kim Mulkey's a champion with Baylor. Kim Mulkey's a champion with Louisiana Tech. And so I think this guy has a vendetta, my understanding, against LSU. He's trying to smear her. She's hired the best defamation attorney in the world for a reason, because this guy is trying to destroy reputation. And has it come out at the wrong time? Yeah, but also giving a hit piece on her team during the tournament ain't going to help either. So I think she's getting a bad rep, and I think she needs besides the defamation word, she needs a PR consultant, because she's a champion that's looking bad to other people like yourselves, because usually I agree with y'all on certain speed, but I don't agree with y'all on Kim Mulkey. Like I said, Calipari didn't win the chip last year.
Kim said some questionable things. Now we're not gonna put her out there, and her X and O's aren't that tight. That's where she gets Calipari.
You can talk that stuff, and
look. Man, I watched her out there on. I watched her that game.
She ain't Barry Switzer. She was struggling.
She was struggling. If it went for Flaugier inside, if it went for Flaugier in the huddle pulling her Kobe,
man, she got part of coaching is recruiting, bro. She recruited that guy out of Baylor, put Baylor on the map.
Yeah, but at that time, if you just recruit the better players, you're gonna be okay.
No, but she's coaching too, man. You can't. You can say I'm just saying. You can say is it
Calipari coaching,
brother. You can say this is unfortunate. This happening right now, but also you need to consider the source. This guy is a known LSU hater. He's a known smear of people. He put that expose about Brian Kelly. People know Brian Kelly ain't no saint, but so what? I mean, the main thing about it is that if she had lost the last few years in the first round, like Calipari, yeah, I'd be like, Kim needs to be quiet. Kim needs to catch her in basketball, but you can't knock a champion after 1 year, man.
Well, I'm not saying there's a couple of things. I don't know what this dude is doing or what he's saying, and I don't care. And it's probably BS because people try to do that. I'm just saying I wouldn't have thought
BS. It's about Brother Cecil. It's about disgruntled players who are coming after Coach.
And I agree with you. I don't believe in listening to the disgruntled player.
Yeah, my point. My understanding is she has some tactics that are unseemly, but let's keep it real. A lot
Everybody
of
does.
You ain't up the top selling sweet. You at the top because you can coach and you gangster.
No, and like I said, I'm good with that. I just said I would not have paid that kind of attention to it. That's all I'm saying, especially if the guy's a smear job. I would have let my world-class lawyers handle it and not said a word about it. That's all. I'm not saying that this not a hit piece. I get that. I understand that. People go after people. But I would not have taken a press conference to bring it up. I would have let my lawyers handle it. I would have let my PR people handle it. Only thing I would have said is we got a basketball tournament to play. That's what I'm focused on. Period.
It's about these women. It's about these women who are playing.
I have a political background. Sometimes you have to spend your political capital. Okay, let's keep it real. Sometimes you're spending political capital, and this is a time where I think my understanding that yes, this is a smear, but these are players who have compelling stories. My understanding, who are very upset because they're not in the limelight like Angel Reese and Van Lith and all other Flooded Jackson. And they have an axe to grind. And so this report is going to put the worst possible spin on these as possible when, sadly, this is how business is done in the NAL era in 2024.
Well, and I hope they get exposed for that. I don't have an issue with any of that, and I hope they get exposed. I'm just speaking in terms of if it was me as a coach in her position, I would not have given it the time of day. Being where we are and trying to repeat for a championship, I would not have given it the light of day. That's all I'm saying. I agree. I hope they get buried. I hope they get called out for all the BS they're trying to do to her. I don't have any problems with that. I agree with that.
In my opinion, there are going to be anonymous sources, so a bunch of cowards.
Yeah, but
I would say, but let
me say this. I would say that, but the responsibility is you're the face of the head coach, and all you have to say in that one is, I've hired the best legal team. We're going to deal with this. This is about these women today. We're going to focus on them in the game. And I'll answer those questions at a later date. I'll let my legal team deal with them. And that is where you can do that. And then let your lawyer come out and say what you need to say about all the other stuff. You know, if they come out with something, statement from a lawyer, we're going to take them to task. Let them do all that talk while she focuses on the game. You could tell the distraction on how they played early on. They can't start like that against some of these other teams. They can't do it against UCLA.
Well, that's true.
They start like that against UCLA.
Y'all talking in the chat like they're gonna lose, and I didn't want to opine because I thought I was surprised people, but yeah, y'all talking they're gonna lose. They won. And they started out bad, but they came out and rocked them.
Yeah, but if you watch the game,
and honestly, if they wasn't, if they didn't have that home court advantage, they might not have won.
Well, they got home court advantage, bro. So that's again, that's saying what's not true.
You know what she needed to be focused on? She was one of the best point guards. She needed to focus on point guard development because that's what she's losing.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Right. So that's where the focus is. It's not on what's happening out here. You got a problem in the backcourt and getting that. There's ways for you to fix that, but you have not built the culture to actually do it. Right, and you got to do it now because it's going to show up in this next game. They better be ready to play. So it's part of, you can't suck the energy out of what's going on. So I understand, obviously universities dealt with this person before, so they're not surprised. So they'll be able to do it. That's why you got university folks. That's what they do. That's what they're there for. They're there to help out with that kind of stuff, especially at a place like
President Tate. I have a number of conference President Tate. I mean, you see, he's quiet on this, so I guarantee you, knowing President Tate, he's doing something behind the scenes to help LSU's reputation. And like I said again, I can't wait till the story comes out because I think that people being a little too hard on Kim Mulkey, I think she will be exonerated as far as people saying that she is disproportionately responding to this. When you see the allegations, you see the mess that happens, I think a boomerang on this guy. And I think there's a reason why they're holding back the story now. If the story was that hot, they would have dropped it, right? So that tells me the story ain't all hot. Like I said, this story is a smear. And so I'm glad that since she did come out because, again, she's one of the best coaches in America, regardless of what you all say. She is. And, they got a point guard problem right now. There's no question about that. And I think that, I think they can solve that problem during the tournament. And I still got him in my final game, plain simple.
We all
the only barrier LSU win a chip is South Carolina. That's the only barrier to LSU winning a chip. It's South Carolina. It's
Well,
not this mess from a Washington Post reporter.
they better not look past this team from
They're not gonna look past them
UCLA.
because they got scared. They came out BSing last game, but they roll. But yeah, you're right. They come out like Wisconsin did against James Madison. They don't get blown out. You're right.
They going home.
They go home.
But part of their big problem is that they have not been focused. That's the problem, and it's been all that stuff. It's been
all that stuff has been in the fighting and stuff like that. Yeah, that's unfortunate.
So she part of that. She got to bring that together. That's the difference with her squad right now.
That's
And
a good point.
She seemed to be in the mix with them versus not being in the mix. That's the problem.
She's a flamboyant. She was wearing
I'm not judging the outfits. I'm okay with being flamboyant. There's an opportunity though. You gotta correct that stuff in there, and I don't see that happening. And so
I saw them corrected midstream in the last game. I think y'all were calling them dead before they even hit the zero mark of the fourth quarter.
Yeah, if Middle Tennessee had anything down the stretch offense, they would have been out of there at the crib.
They didn't.
So, but I'm saying the talent only gets harder. So you got to be focused.
I agree with that. I think they got scared. They're gonna be back.
And those losses,
y'all talk like they end up like Purdue.
No, but Hammer, the thing you're missing is that all that stuff, all those behaviors show up at the key moments. You don't just turn it on. You don't just do it. Like these teams they playing coming up right here are not teams you can just turn it on. And people gonna find that out this weekend. A lot of these teams that's been kind of going, it's gonna be down and out. All right, y'all. We'll keep. It's already said it's gonna be an exciting weekend. We already gonna be going. We had a lot of going back and forth. Anything that we missed about this weekend, anybody want to add before we wrap it up? Any thoughts?
You're talking about basketball, right?
Basketball right now. Whatever you got going on. Whatever you say about March Madness. Anything you're hoping for?
All these coaches are jumping at me. As soon as they win a chair like James Madison, he ran to Nashville with the quickness, as my dad would say. I mean, you had Coach Sprinkle ran like the quickness to Washington, and Coach Smith ran with the quickness to Stanford, which I think I'm an alum. I think it's a bad decision. I think he should have stayed there. And then A.D. Chung ran and went to Washington. So yeah, I see numbers switching right now. So
yeah, that's crazy. Yeah.
And the brother Brooks from Virginia Tech, who I thought he had a great program, went to Kentucky. I'm like, when did that happen? And is he going to a better program? Yeah. So yeah, these coaches, that's probably what you got to look at the end of the week. Who's going to be leaving is probably what's going on. The musical chairs. I'm looking forward to seeing if this Zach Edey thing is going.
Dusty May with Michigan.
Yeah, Dusty going in. I'm looking to see if this Zach Edey thing is going, because Zach made me nervous. Zach like he's gonna hurt somebody. So I'm looking forward to seeing if that's the real Zach Edey standing up. I'm looking forward to Purdue this weekend. Because if he come out this next game the same way, there's gonna be some problems. Anybody else looking for anything with your hope for this weekend before we close it out?
I'm excited for great basketball.
Watching good basketball, man.
Yeah.
A lot of good
some good games.
Just can't wait.
We can't wait. It's gonna be good on both sides. Let's drop the mic. Let's give out some flowers. We've been doing enough badgering back and forth. Let's give out some flowers. Who wants to go first?
I guess I'll go first. I gotta give my flowers, drop the mic, tip my hat to the general, Jamal Shade, the point guard from University of Houston. He played the entire game until the last minute of overtime where he ended up fouling out. But yeah, he led his team in every single way: offense, defense, playmaking. He did whatever was needed. And in the face of adversity, a lot of his teammates had fouled out. But he persevered through and he brought his team to victory. So that's my drop the mic, tip my hat to Jamal Shedd. And after the game, they dedicated the game to Reggie Chaney. Also, give my flowers out to him. Rest in peace. Forgot about he passed over the fall. He was on the team that when we went to see him in the Mile Invitational. We got a chance to ask him a couple questions when he was at the podium. So yeah, he's a galvanizing force for that Houston team.
Mm. All right, who else?
I'll go with Purdue. A year ago, shock of the world as far as another 16 beating a 1, and there are people I'm sure talking about they were a fire Coach Painter, but people were calling that crazy mess. But the fact that Zach Edey decided he declared for the draft and came back, and so I think really you saw what we talked about with Zach Edey, where there's dog and Matt Painter, Lance Jones. They got a really good Braden Smith. They're playing like a number 1 seed, and so I give them credit for being resilient. Like I don't think they'll do what Virginia did after they lost, but I think again the resiliency is key things because you see right now Kentucky ain't resilient. Like we talked about, he's the opposite of resiliency, and so the fact that Coach Painter has a team focused and eye on the prize and not being distracted, I dropped the mic for them because they could have been distracted, they could have been infighting, but they believe in the system, they believe in Painter, they believe in Zach Edey, and they turn a nightmare to triumph this year. And so, got the mic for Purdue basketball.
Mine is a little different, but it's still about basketball. My mic drop goes to women's basketball.
Mm.
These young women and these coaches are balling. I mean, it is so much fun to see them play like they're doing. Of course, I got granddaughters and daughters and daughters that played, so I got a little sensitivity for that. And I talk to my daughter about it all the time. And, I could call out. I was stuck between just calling out Dawn because what's going on at I think it's Dawn, not Dawn, at South Carolina. Yeah, what's going on? Yeah, what's going on there is amazing. I mean, she graduated starting 5. They got to the national championship, and most of them were in the championship team the year before with a whole brand new team, and here she is again. That's special, and the game is just exciting. The women are exciting. Like I said, I'm going to watch every USC game I can until they're not in the tournament, just to watch Juju because she's unreal, and of course South Carolina. And then I look at somebody like Kara Lawson, who was at Duke, who brought Duke from obscurity in football and have them in basketball and have them in the Sweet 16 now when they were, who knows where they were and what she's done and remembering how she played when she was in college. But just think about the women's game. And if you get a chance, if you haven't done it, Kara Lawson has go online and she has a YouTube thing called Handle Harder Better. And it's really good in terms of what she tells her players. You just got to learn how to handle harder better. And that's what she's done. So women's basketball, the tournament itself, I just dropped the mic on them because it was an exciting weekend, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the tournament.
That was my thing. And I wanted to find a way to capture, my drop the mic with him. And I want to just maybe focus on one player as an example. We're learning about so many different players in the women's game, but I don't know if anybody had a chance to watch it. I think it's Alyssa Peely. Like this is a woman who started out at USC and now at Utah. Had 35 points in the loss against Gonzaga. Gonzaga's got 2 twins in the backcourt, the Trongs, who can play. I just found out talking to my sister that my niece them played against them in AAU. They're from Houston. But I'll talk about Peely. This Peely is 6'2". Like they're power forward, coming off screens, hitting threes. I mean, I watched her, but the stories you have to know about her is that she's played multiple sports in high school. I think she played and won multiple state championships. I think like it's a number like 8, like in all these different sports. You're talking about amazing athlete growing up, but this is a player that I'm like a WNBA team. I know they talk about Caitlin going number 1. But when you talk about somebody who can go in a bag, if you have not had a chance to watch this woman play, and there's a number of stars in the game, but if you haven't had a chance to watch her play, you need to go watch her play. She knows how to play. She can play inside out. She's an incredible athlete. But the other thing about it is she can sing too. Like this, she can do it all. But this is as an example of like the stories that's coming out of the women's side. This is another one. They lost, at Gonzaga. It was incredible. Now the bitter side of that story is her and her teammates had to endure some craziness during their time in Spokane. But
Mhm.
her spirit is just incredible. So I just want, as an example of what you said, Cecil, about the women's game, if you have a chance, Alyssa Peely, Darnell was shaking her head. Like, this is someone who is like a star. That if you didn't have a chance to understand who she was, like everybody talking about everybody else, this is somebody who's going to be making noise at the next level. Hey, this is always fun, guys. Y'all been brothers in the work. It's been great to be on here. I love debating. Our text messages are great, going back and forth with each other, yelling at each other in small emojis or whatever it is. It's always good. But I look forward to hanging with y'all again as we continue to watch this March Madness. We're gonna get into some talking about some football and some other stuff in some of our feature podcasts because things are happening there. Baseball's coming up. Basketball's revving up a little bit, so we're going to get into that with the NBA and talk about what happened to those Bucks. But we'll
Oh,
see you on the other side. And check us out on realsportsguys.com and Real Sports Guys on all platforms. Take it easy.
Ready for the day the Lord called on me. Them all the shit man, they all on me. Ooh.